So what I would say is that, ASH offers the opportunity for a lot of experts to get together to try to figure out what makes sense. Sometimes what happens is that, especially when it comes to blood and bone marrow related cancers, unfortunately we don't have the numbers, and these are rare disorders. So sometimes there's not specific data about exactly the right thing to do for patients. So what that means is that we might have a way that we do things in Florida, which might be much different than what they're doing in California, which is different than what they're doing in Texas. Not wrong, but there's just sometimes not enough patients to make it what we call statistically significant, or to make it so it could actually be in the textbooks. So what we do is we all get together and say, all right, well, this is what we're doing in Florida. This is our results. What are you guys doing in California? They say, oh my gosh, we're doing it this way. And we kind of all just talk about what we call best practices. So like we take a little bit of California, a little bit from what they're doing in New York, to try to make sure that we all take care of patients the right way. So I would say that's the first best thing about it, is that we all get to kind of talk, because sometimes what happens is that we work in silos, and so we don't really know what they're doing in Seattle. We don't know what they're doing in New York. Social media has helped some, but it's nothing like sitting down at a conference and like, this is what the conference is for. It's literally dedicated time for you to kind of make things better for people. So I would say that's number one. And then number two, it allows people to kind of like toot their horn. For example, if they're making some, if they had an idea to say, hey, drug A is great, and we're so happy that we have drug A. Drug B is also great. I wonder, if I put drug A and B together, will that make it amazing? Right. And so sometimes it doesn't work, right? Like, meaning that you put these combinations of things together and it unfortunately doesn't pan out the way you anticipated it. But sometimes it works really well. And so I think that it's a way for you to almost like toot your own horn and say, hey, I came up with this really cool idea. And this is actually how cancer should be treated now, because we see that A plus B leads to a much better result than just A alone or B alone. So I would say that's number two. And then from a patient standpoint, I think it's just reassuring for them to know that whatever is the latest and the greatest, it's all talked about right there at that conference. So it's reassuring just to know that, hey, my doctor was there. My doctor knows kind of what is the hot buzz that's regarding my topic and regarding my cancer. So I think that that's fantastic. And then also to say, hey, my doctor was actually giving one of those talks. Like, he was one of the folks, in the buzz. So I think that that's also fantastic. I think some of the nitty gritty details will eventually play out later, meaning that sometimes these things are so new and so cutting edge that they're not even like approved by insurance companies yet, because they're literally like what we call hot off the press. And so some of those details will pan out as it becomes more and more mature. So, but I think from a what should patients understand? I would just say that, to know that, hey, my doctor is really doing everything that it takes to try to make sure that we take the best care of patients possible. And sometimes that means understanding what they're doing all across, not only just America, but really all over the world. I would say that it's always good to try to understand kind of what's going on, because this is your body, your disease. This is something that you should try to be as much aware of as what's happening. However, I'll be honest, it's like drinking through a fire hose. There's so much information. So as a patient, sometimes it's hard to understand, well, what's important? What's not important? Yes, this is published or this might be on the internet somewhere, but does that mean that it's relevant? Or more importantly, is it relevant to me? So I think those things could be very difficult to filter through. And so I think that's where the relationship with your doctor comes in, to kind of say, hey, I heard about this. Was this discussed at the conference? If all the great minds that are caring for this cancer are all in one room, and that one article that you read on some random website isn't brought up, then it probably means that, unfortunately, that's probably not a great source, and it's unfortunately not something that's going to be a game changer in the field. So it's good to just always read. I would never tell anybody not to read, but you have to be careful of what you read and where your sources are coming from, because not all websites are created equally. And so that's where the relationship with the doctor comes in. The problem is that that's a very complicated answer, because the issue is right now in America, a lot of things are tied to insurance, right? So like healthcare and insurance are like integrated related. And so what that means then is that um, we unfortunately as doctors may have these great ideas and say, hey, this is something that we really think is going to be a game changer, but if unfortunately we can't get the insurance companies on board, then it takes time, right? Also, we also know is that employment is tied to insurance, right? That's another kind of sticky thing too. You know what I mean? So there's layers to those things because there's like commercial insurance and then there's governmental insurances. You know what I mean? And so not all of them approve things at the same rate, right? Meaning that like I won't name any names, but a certain insurance company a private insurance company might say, for our members of our private insurance, yes, I appreciate you guys doing this research, but this might not be the best thing for our members. They have that choice to make that, and we unfortunately won't pay for that because we as a private healthcare insurance don't think that that's the best move. However, from a governmental standpoint, a lot of times the government allows us the flexibility to say, well, if this is what kind of the experts are saying, then this is likely what the government will approve, right? And sometimes the private insurances come aboard afterwards, but to know like that process integrally as a patient, I think is very difficult. And so I do think that because again, healthcare is tied to insurance. So regardless of how much you read about something, if unfortunately the payer for that particular entity is not on board, it's not much your doctor or anybody else can do.